Coming live from South Central California, where they've been doing fireworks for 2 weeks in a row. I don't know who gave the hood fireworks. Is the Berry Flame. Hey y'all, today this video is about why I moved to California. And contrary to every single freaking person that I meet, I did not move to California for the weather. I happen to like seasons, happen to appreciate seasons, and I happen to actually like wintertime. So much so that I went back home for 3 months during winter when it was cold. But either way, I find it really interesting that people always are like, oh man, you're from where? Oh, upstate New York? Wow. Sure is a lot of snow. It's July. It's not any snow right now. So on top of the fact that you're assuming why I moved here, you also don't know anything about seasons or geography. And that just makes me sad. But honestly, I did not move to California for the weather. I moved here because I felt like it was time to learn something new, and I didn't want to do it in like the most traditional way. And I've always been the type of person who wanted to travel the world, who wanted to see a lot of different things. And I was like, I'm going to go on a whim and I'm going to apply for this job in California. That's not paying me a ton because it didn't. And I'm going to move to California. How that looked was initially I was supposed to move to Oakland. And then I got an email from the new job asking me, hey, we actually need some people in San Jose. Do you mind going over there? You know, I had already moved all of my stuff out of my apartment, and, you know, I was just like, okay, ain't no looking back. I'm going to take this chance. Even though I had never heard of San Jose, California. Honest to God. No lie. I had never heard of San Jose. So I moved there. I'm working with all the young, awesome kids in East San Jose. Shout out to East San Jose. Shout out to every hood. That's all I got to say. But in particular, my first dose of California hood was East San Jose. And that's where I felt at home. And so I really appreciate East San Jose. And if you don't know a lot about San Jose, here's what there is to know. You know about Silicon Valley? All right, Silicon Valley has the, what do you call it? The Facebooks, anything that you use as major technology, Google, all those things are like basically in that area. And so the contrast of extremely wealthy people and then people who were newly arriving immigrants was something that I don't know if I ever really, I had to really stare it in the face, like firsthand, because the work that I was doing, I was meant to bring both of these worlds together. I was meant to bring people from Google and all of these places to come and teach apprenticeships to my young kids, who a lot of them, their families were newly arriving, some undocumented. And that was just a very real thing. But to like also be like, oh yeah, I'm about to take my kids to Google. And then know also like, ooh, there's a shortage of computers in this district right now, in a place where Silicon Valley is. So the reason why I'm emphasizing the fact that we had a lack of resources in Silicon Valley is because people are led to believe many things in their life, right? Like that people move to California. Everybody who moves to California moves here for the weather. People are also led to believe that in a place like the Silicon Valley, there should never be a shortage of computers and resources for young people, but there is. When I lived in San Jose, I lived in downtown San Jose next to San Jose State. And so that was interesting, right? Because I'm like working in East San Jose. I'm living in downtown, which is very newly, heavily gentrified. And I'm on this very small amount of money. So it was, to say the least, very interesting. Not only that, I had left Buffalo where I had a billion, trillion freaking friends, you know, all these people that I was around every day. I never had a shortage of any friend. I never had like a situation where I was like, I am bored. That never happened. As a matter of fact, I was never in my house. And anybody who knew me in Buffalo and knew the life that I lived in Buffalo, I went home. I went home to go to bed, and I was home to wake up. That was it. Other than that, I was never in the house, ever, ever, ever. So switch to me moving to San Jose. I don't know a soul except for two of my roommates, but we don't chill like that. Like we see each other in the house, we have conversations, but like we're not chilling with each other every day. They get their own friends, all kinds of things. You feel me? So for me, that was really like, you know, very different. And I spent most of my time in San Jose, the first part of living there, really in the house. And that was the first time I had been alone for a really long time. Actually, I avoided being alone for years, you know, and just like sitting with myself. I hadn't done that. So it was such a drastic change. It was such a like culture shock, you know, it was so many different things. And so on top of that, just seeing like the wealth disparity and not really knowing a lot of people, and San Jose being, you know, it's, I wouldn't say it's the most exciting place in the world, but I did learn a lot about myself there. And I do and will always appreciate every single human that I met there, because really they were very important in my life. The friends that I made, the people that I worked with, who I still continuously stay in touch with and try my best to stay in touch with, even my students and stuff, as much as I can. And so that was my time in San Jose. And I didn't move here for no goddamn weather. Hilarious, hysterical. I just don't get it. But I did move here with in mind, like, I'm coming here to learn about restorative justice, right? So you're gonna hear me talk about this a lot in my videos, because I was like, I am gonna learn what I have been working in a school that have been restorative justice focused for 2 years. I was like, there has to be even more to learn about RJ. And I was like, I feel like California would be the way. And I feel like Oakland would be the place. And Oakland would be the place because, you know, what I knew of Oakland and the history I knew of Oakland, it was a very radical place. And it was, you know, on the brink of so many political changes. And so I was like, I want to go there and do that. And then in the meantime, I ended up in San Jose. So then eventually I'll write this letter to the head honcho of this organization I'm working for. I need to leave San Jose. Here's why I need to leave San Jose. Because I came here to do blank, blank, and blank. I'm not finding this particular thing in there. So either I'm going to resign, or you can move me to Oakland and do the same job. So July comes. And the 1st of July, I moved to Oakland, California. And I get this really cool apartment next to Lake Merritt with this couple. And my cousin comes to visit me the first weekend. I was dating this guy at the time who I really actually liked a lot. But that ended shortly after I moved to Oakland. Maybe I'm still a little bitter. Okay, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I should also mention, like, my time in San Jose. Okay, a nickname they have for San Jose is Man Jose, right? And then the time that I was there, I had so many dates. Like, it amazed me, right? Honestly, truly. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna date every weekend. And then I met this guy I really liked, and then we started dating, and then I got all wrapped up in it. I was like, this is great. This is awesome. But that was just a tidbit. So either way, I moved to Oakland, start my life in Oakland, start working in East Oakland. Now, listen, I don't know what it is about the east side of any city, but centrally planned cities where, I mean, like, there's like a downtown east, south, northwest type situation. For some reason, the east side of the city be the hoodest, but the most magical place for culture. Like, it's like the hooder it is, the more culturally just explosive and amazing and warm it can be. And that's not to push aside the many things that happen in hoods that can be very detrimental to a lot of people. But for some reason, the type of resilience that, you know, you see in the hood is just, it's every day it blows my mind, honestly, because it's not an easy place to live, but I'd rather be no place else. Definitely not the suburbs. I'm gonna keep it a trillion. But yeah, so I started working in East Oakland. I mean, I really absolutely fell in love with the school, the young people I was working with. Like, I was just like, damn, like, I just really love y'all, you know? And it's interesting because a lot of people have can say a lot of effed up things about East Oakland, but honestly, that's where I felt the absolute most love was in East Oakland. That's where I felt the most at home. And all the pretentiousness that was intentional communities, right? And all the elitism that came with those intentional communities, nobody ever kept it as real with me as East Oakland did. And so shout out to East Oakland, shout out to East 14th. And when I'm much older from now, I will be able to say that, you know what, I was hugged and loved in East Oakland. And that is going to be important to me. And that's for another video. I'll tell you how East Oakland and the East Oakland youth saved my life, but that's for another time. But either way, so I moved to Oakland. I'm like, let's do it, right? Find out a lot of very political things that go on in Oakland education, or USD, can be something. But I started getting the trainings that I wanted. I started really getting very involved in RJ and learning more about RJ in Oakland. And just to backtrack a little bit, I was also at a restorative justice focused school in San Jose. And so that also, you know, it was like, you need those steps. Sometimes we just want to be like, whew. But actually what you need is like those steps. Like, my plan didn't go as I wanted when I first got here, but it was a necessary step. I needed to go to San Jose first so that I could do what I did in Oakland. So I get to Oakland, I started really getting more involved in this, going to the trainings, all kinds of things. Help me out in what they call the think tank, right? Which is a place for young people to move through their feelings and different things that might have happened throughout the day. This is a place to go to kind of like talk about those things and move through those things. And like if you just got into a fight, if your teacher kicked you out, whatever the case might be. Not that RJ is necessarily supposed to be so reactionary, but that's one way to engage with it through mediation and conflict resolution. And so then cut to being in Oakland for a while. Then stuff starts getting a little rough. You know what I mean? Start getting a little rough. So the people that were the master tenants in the place that I was staying decided they wanted to move. And I didn't have a problem with that, you feel me? Like, because everyone has their own path, and I think the reason why they're moving was good for them. I don't have nothing to do with that. But the point I bring this up is because that was a shift in like kind of my struggle with housing in the Bay, and that was the beginning of it. And it was a difficult time. I lived in a total of 3 or 4 different spaces within 2 to 3 months. Or maybe 3 to 4 months. And that became difficult. And the reason why it happened that way was because they were sublets. You know, it was really hard to kind of find consistent long-term housing, right? And I'm talking about this because I think it's important that people really know about the housing crisis that's going on in the Bay Area and even here in LA, you feel me? And so that's why it's important to me when I live somewhere that like I'm very conscious of the space that I am taking up and how am I engaging with the existing community, right? And that means like, who am I going to buy my loaf of bread from? Like, and so I lived through it as a transplant in a place, but I just want to emphasize all the people in the Bay Area who are being, you know, kind of displaced when it's their home. It's a difference when it's your home and you're being displaced as opposed to when you are a transplant to a place and you're being shifted from place to place. Not that any of that actually feels good. None of it feels good. But I'm just saying I had maybe more options in different places that I see as home as opposed to like if this, I was still in Rochester and this was happening to me and my family. And I'm like, this is the only home I know. You feel me? So that's why I bring that up. But it was a very difficult time for me, and I'm not trying to like in any way like kind of minimize that because it is definitely difficult to go from place to place. But it definitely taught me a lot about who my friends were, what community can look like, learning my economic capacity, being willing to ask for help when I needed it. And being tender with myself. And when I say tender, I mean like really being more forgiving of myself and not trying to, you know, feel like, oh, because this isn't panning out like this, it's your fault and you're the person who's not doing what you're supposed to do. But being like, actually, this is a real effect of capitalism, a very real effect of capitalism, and that all of these things you're feeling are valid, and they're valid because capitalism is a very difficult system to live in. And gentrification is not an easy thing either. So Yeah, my time in Oakland was definitely really eye-opening for a lot of different reasons. And I will be kind of talking about in an upcoming video, kind of like how community helped me uh, live rent-free in Oakland for the last 3 months. And this is not to brag, but this is to talk about and emphasize what community means and how you can show up for people and how you don't have to have a lot to show up for people. And I just feel like it's a really important thing to talk about. Um, but I worked at the school, did that. Then I ended up working for an organization that strictly did restorative justice in schools. And I had decided that I wanted to move away from the Bay because my goals I feel were accomplished, and I felt like also I needed to make space for people whose home that was. It's like a lot of different factors play into the reason why I felt like I needed to move, and I do consider myself at this point in my life a nomad. I don't feel like it's one way to learn or one way to live, but I do feel like humans have always moved from place to place, and there's a reason why we did that, whether that was to gain knowledge or food, whatever the case might be. It was a lot of different reasons why people have been migrant since the beginning of time. Well, since the beginning of human plight on this earth. But my point really being like that I don't feel like my path has to be so traditional. And just like my path wasn't necessarily traditional to move to California, which people think the traditional reason to move to California is because you love the weather. Like, okay, whatever. And that's not to like poo on anybody's idea of California, but like that is the absolute last reason why I would ever move anywhere. And I don't see my life in a very traditional way. I think it's important for me to live and learn from a lot of different people in a lot of different places. And I'm really grateful and have a lot of gratitude about every single step in my life that has brought me to this point. That doesn't mean my life is perfect. That doesn't mean any of these things. I just believe that everything that has happened to me up to this point or happened in my life has really given me a lot of clarity on what it means to live my best life, right? And I want to be able to use my talents as an educator and my experiences and my skills to help people not only care for people, but help them care for each other and for themselves. And again, I just want to remind people this is why I'm making this YouTube. This is why this is really important for me to do at this time in my life, along with the ideas of like, I don't have to align, and I never have aligned with anything that people think you have to do traditionally. And not to poo on anybody who is doing it a traditional way. My point is like, I've realized something about myself that has always been me, is that I'm not a person that necessarily goes with the crowd. And that's okay. And that's cool. And if you're not, that's also cool. As long as you ain't hurting nobody. But if you're hurting somebody, I ain't with that. That's all I say. I got issue with people who hurt other people. Well, intentionally. And even if you didn't do it intentionally, what are you doing to fix your harm? But yeah, I'm trying to decide which of the next videos I should do. If you have any questions, please put them below in the comments. Questions you might have, new videos you want me to make. I do still need to make my restorative justice video. I'm trying to solidify a few different things before I do that, actually. I don't want to get too much detail of that, but anything about this video, I would really appreciate if y'all below put some comments below, put some suggestions below if you want me to start editing videos, but I don't know. Because my mom's always wanted me to be a famous dancer and choreographer. And I do enjoy dancing when I'm not being so totally self-conscious about it. But yeah, I love y'all. Put them comments, subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe. You feel me? I love y'all.